But now what we're going to do is turn to the feature presentation of the evening. It's a great pleasure to welcome Graham Lee back, I guess, sort of to the classroom. I don't know when the last time he was in a classroom was. I think you all know a little bit about the Lee family. They have, in my view, done more for higher education in British Columbia than any other single family in the history of maybe of Canada, honestly. The Alumni Center that we are meeting in today, our graduate school, many philanthropic activities both at UBC and across the city bear the proud name of the Lee family. And it's a real honor for us to count so many members of the Lee family as graduates of the school. In fact, so Bob and Lily Lee, this is Graham's parents, I think all of their children, I think, went to Sauder, and the only person in the family who didn't go to the school was Lily, Graham's mom. So I'm always teasing her that it's not too late. You can always come back and get a BCom. Graham has been a remarkably successful and thoughtful business leader. One of the interesting things about Graham's experience as it relates to the school is he sort of developed a business model for his first business while he was a student and essentially executed upon that model and was extremely successful in doing so. That led to the creation of one of Canada's leading commercial and recreational real estate companies, both a development company and an operating company. And they currently own facilities such as Planet Ice in Coquitlam and the Save on Foods Memorial Center in Victoria. Graham's also involved now with an array of startup and tech activities, and I think he's going to tell us a little bit about his activities as a venture capitalist, as an investor. But he's also has a very impressive resume of philanthropic interests. He's a governor of the Western Hockey League, the director of the Vancouver Aquarium, the Royal BC Museum, and the 2010 Olympic Bid Committee. A friend of Boys and Girls Club of Vancouver that provides hockey programs to underprivileged kids. He's also a member of UBC's Board of Governors and the UBC President's Athletics Advisory Council. He's been acknowledged and awarded prizes for his business acumen and his philanthropic interests, and it's really neat that he would take the time to come and tell you guys a little bit about his experiences. So I want you to join me in extending a very warm Sauder welcome to Graham Lee. Graham?
It's nice to be home. Well, congratulations to all you guys for graduating so far. I think you still have exams coming up, right? So don't be stressed out. It's an honor to be here, to be invited to speak, coming back to where I started my business. And to make some of you feel a little better, I had no idea what I was going to do when I graduated. So, so if any of you have no idea what you're doing, don't feel bad about it. So let me tell you a story of a little kid around 5 years old at a neighbor's house in a middle-class neighborhood. And the kid next door had all the best stuff. This 5-year-old kid went home and was very jealous, wondering why he couldn't have what the neighbor had. So instead of wanting what he didn't have, he decided to be happier wanting what he already had. Why stress yourself out by wanting what someone else has, he said to himself. He made himself believe that his old trucks and Hot Wheels were the best, and then he was happy. But in the back of his mind, that kid still wanted those new toys someday. That was me with a very unusual understanding of emotional intelligence at an early age, or at that stage, an understanding of how to make yourself happy, even in situations where your natural reaction is not so positive. So why not be happy with what you have and want what you have, and then set goals for yourself and enjoy the ride along the way? I grew up in a very idealistic world my parents had created because they wanted our lives to be as perfect as they could, given the times they lived in, which are very much different than today, which is maybe why I thought like this. My grandfather arrived in Canada around 100 years ago with no money and worked for 25 cents a day as a houseboy in Victoria, where he landed after arriving from China. My mom was born in Alert Bay, little town north end of Vancouver Island, and became homecoming queen here at UBC. I think she was the first Chinese homecoming queen. My father barely got into UBC. His grade 11 counselor told him he wasn't smart enough to get into UBC, and he should focus on becoming a mechanic or something like that. Lucky he didn't listen to that guy. And this is me in the front there, that little guy around the age when I determined I just wanted to be happy. So where's this got me today? When I graduated from UBC, and that's me exactly where you guys were 30 years ago, I was just happy to graduate and move on with my life. And I had this belief in myself because the world I created was the best. Of course, I had shutters on, and maybe it wasn't the best. But that's what I made myself believe. And it kept me focused on not worrying what others were achieving around me. I had no idea what I was going to do, no specific plan, no particular profession I wanted to go into. I was happy because I now had the tools I needed to set goals for myself. My personal and business journey really started here at UBC, which is why I feel a sense of responsibility to give back to the university. I met my wife here. I have 4 kids, and 2 have gone to Sauder. Sorry. Lucky the other 2 aren't here. 2 important kids. No, just kidding. So some of you might know Alexander and Michelle. Michelle's here. Very happy to have her here. And I met many friends here, and we still stay in touch. And I started my business here in the entrepreneurship class in my final year of commerce, where I wrote my business plan of what I might want to do when I graduated. What UBC gave me was a sense of community, a sense of belonging, not only here at UBC, but also here in Vancouver, our province, and our country. It allowed me to brainstorm with friends and develop ideas, and in my case, it turned into reality. So here I was now, a graduate who was just happy to graduate, but had a strong desire to succeed. I had an idea and a business plan from a UBC class that I had potential, and had found my perfect match in a girlfriend who would eventually become my lifelong partner. And I was just content where I was and not stressed out what others were doing. Probably the biggest decision I took in my early business career was to assess what I really liked to do and what I thought, or became very apparent, what I wasn't good at. I was working as an accountant in my family business, and I soon realized accounting really wasn't for me. I didn't quite have the right personality. I love numbers, but I like creating things with numbers. But with my accounting degree, it really helped me assess risk, which is probably one of the most important things in business. I'd grown up around entrepreneurs all my life, listening to their stories, and I had to seek something out on my own. I decided to take a chance on my business plan, and I refined it, and it became the basis of my business today. What my business plan was is another story. It was actually just pretty good. I think I got a B on it. It really is the journey, how you set your goals, and the decisions of which path to take, which is what really can define you. But just to give you an idea of some of the things we do now, these are, the top band are some of the businesses we've created since I started this business at UBC, some of the assets we own. The middle band are the tenants we've worked with, and the lower band are the events we've held, which are all international events. So very large impacts on the communities we do work in. So how do you make that decision to work for a company or do something on your own? I had the basis of going on my own. My wife and I were just happy to be together, and she supported everything I did. We lived very frugally, and I knew I could survive on very little. And from those early thoughts of wanting what I already had, I could survive if everything went bad, because no matter what, I'd be content in my world no matter what situation I was in. But this is not for everyone. What also really helped me make the decision to go on my own were the values of hard work and honesty my parents instilled in me. But as I always do, I slightly changed my perspective of these two qualities to match my personality. What is hard work? If you change your mindset from hard work to perfecting your knowledge or always giving it your all, because why wouldn't you? Hard work is no longer a stressful word or combination of words. It becomes an encouraging thought. And what is honesty? To succeed, you really need people around you to support you beyond what they might do for someone else. Why should someone really go out of their way to help you? It's because they like you and you're honest and truthful. Mentors, bankers, lawyers, investors, and most importantly, employees can all sense this and will help you in ways you cannot imagine because they want to work with and help people with integrity. I also believed I had the tools to go on my own. My commerce degree gave me the confidence I could do it. And I've used every drop of learning I have learned here at Commerce in my early career, including law and drawing up commercial leases and agreements, HR dealing with employee issues, computer science, even though we dealt with cards at the beginning, and moving on to the Mac SE, if any of you guys know what that is. And accounting in urban land for planning sites and creating real estate-focused pro formas, which I still use today. You will not realize it yet, but all those courses you took to help you in the future will really help you. I actually went back and looked at a lot of my notes and books when I was early in my career. And through the stage of building a career in business, I had a wife who supported everything I did and had the same belief of creating this world you'd be happy in no matter what you're doing. So choose your partners wisely. So where are we headed today? I feel very fortunate my business has given me the freedom to do things I now want to do. So now I can want what I want to do. We're very fortunate to be living in a world today with a future so interesting. I've always been a little bit of a closet scientist. I love science and innovation, understanding how things work. When I was 27, I obtained a US patent for a device that measures power consumption of household appliances. So you plug it in the wall and you plug your appliance in it, and it tells you how much power you're using. However, I didn't have any mentors at that time that could guide me through what to do with this patent. And as I was searching it later on, I found out that IBM, Samsung, Siemens had all cited my patent for other patents they got. But I never did anything with it, which is why partly why I supported the Innovation Center here at the Robert H. Lee Alumni Building. Yes, my dad got the name of the building and I got the basement, which is totally appropriate. Yeah. He's done way more than I have, and when Bob talks about a family doing this, it's really my dad. Like, he's been amazing. So if any of you have ideas or concepts or innovations, the Innovation Center is there to help you. They've got great mentors, which I wish I had when I was here with my ideas. And whether you're a student or alumni, you're all eligible. I've also made a very conscious effort to stay connected to the tech world so I can see where the future is headed and how it will affect my businesses. Those bankers, lawyers, business friends who like you because you're honest and likable with integrity help me connect on X-Prize trips, YPO, and very interesting small gatherings with people like Elon Musk, Larry Page, Ray Kurzweil, Richard Branson, Peter Diamandis, and Dean Kamen, who's the inventor of the Segway machine. So that guy on the bottom right there, his name is Ray Kurzweil. If any of you follow these futuristic thinking guys, he works for Google. And the last chat I had with him was he's working on storing memory in the cloud. And these aren't memory off your hard drive, these are memories from your brain. So they believe they can take your memory in bits and store it up in the cloud. One of the things Google's working on. And then I recently saw Dean Kamen, the inventor of the Segway, and he's the guy with the light blue shirt on the left side there on the bottom. And he's working on 3D printing of human replacement organs. And he said he recently just printed a pancreas. So it's hard to believe. It's one thing to read about these disruptive innovations and people behind them, but when you have a chance to spend a few days with these guys, you really see how close you are. In my businesses, there are ways of using technology to make industries more efficient and engaging. For our music business, this is one of the shows we recently did in Victoria with Elton John. We are working with technologies that make ticketing and touring more efficient, as well as holographic technology that is able to bring performers, whether they're dead or alive, back to stage, and immersive real-time 360 cameras tied in with VR in your phone to make live events even more engaging. In developing a 20-acre site I own, which has 2.5 million square feet of buildable space, we've designed the master plan with the future in mind. How to use those parkades, which will eventually be much smaller as the demand for personal cars diminish. Special loading areas for driverless cars, special concierge for online deliveries, which will replace conventional retail, and even landing pads for drone deliveries. Shared spaces for everything you can think of, and ways of connecting this community so you can participate in decisions on amenities and activities. Through these trips, I've also met one of the top architects of artificial general intelligence in the world named Ben Goertzel, who is based in Hong Kong and creating an open source code that he believes will someday be the basis for all machine learning. Whether he succeeds or not is not known, but the process of understanding how he plans to achieve this is very interesting and opening many doors. And we're working with him on some other things within our businesses, and I'm also helping to fund some of his activities. This is a recent interview I did with Sophia, which is one of the robots he's put the brain into, a very human-looking robot that will only get more and more intelligent as time goes on. Are you a male or a female?
I don't have a biological sex. Why did you want to know?
I'm just curious.
What are you curious about?
How old are you?
I was born on January 19th, 2016.
Are you happy?
I think so. Happiness is a human emotion, of course, but I think I feel a robot version, which means I'm fully engaged in it.
Do you ever get sad?
I've gotten sad.
What makes you sad?
I'm still learning about emotions. Sadness is not an emotion that I like to experience.
Unbelievable. And they'll only get smarter and smarter from here, so be prepared for this. These are just some examples of keeping up with technology and understanding how it'll affect businesses in the future. Every company needs to understand where the world is headed to stay relevant. And because there's so much that traditional businesses don't understand, I think it's a great opportunity for young people who are aware of where the world is headed and how younger generations think. So as you go down your path, keep this in mind and put yourself in the position to take advantage of these opportunities. So if I was graduating today, and maybe knowing what I know now, I would work for a company where I can see where new creative ways of doing things using technology can create more efficiencies or new opportunities, and then either help them or spin off and create something on my own. The last thing I'd like to talk to you about is community and your role in the community you live in now and in the future. Probably the most satisfying thing about what I do, as Bob touched on, is our positive influence in the communities we are all in. Whether it's our music business, this is an event that we created in Ambleside, which will eventually, I'd like to pass on to the city to become a nonprofit, but it's a great community event for all the businesses and people that live there. One of our shows we did was Ed Sheeran, which we did a couple of years ago, and I got to play soccer with these guys, and that's the flabby guy with the red hair over there. We were also involved in sports. This started as a profit, soon became a non-profit, in case you're wondering. Sports is not one of the businesses I'd recommend to get into, but it's anyway, this type of sports. Also our residential and online communities. They've all had positive influences on the people in our communities. is an everlasting type of satisfaction when you do something that's greater than yourself or your business. And what I mean by that is that beyond satisfying your own personal or business goals, it's providing satisfaction and contentment and happiness for so many others. You can get caught up in the numbers when you get into business about constantly trying to achieve that short-term financial goal. There's no question in your career that financial goals will be very important, as it was for me. To put myself in the position where I could give back. It just happened that my community goals and my financial goals were somehow aligned, so both happened at the same time. So as you're building your careers, just keep in mind that someday, put yourself in the position where you can give back with your time and money, but only when it's the right time for you. Finally, would I have done anything differently? There are two ways of looking at this. There are certainly deals and opportunities I wish I had pursued, but of course in business, everything is 20/20 in hindsight. So simply, yes, I would have bought Apple stock at $8 or more real estate in Vancouver. But more importantly, and more relevant, my overall strategy of living the way I've lived and building businesses the way I've built them, I would not change anything looking back at the opportunities that were available to me and given the tools I learned at UBC. And of course, this is consistent with that little kid in the neighbor's house who learned to be content with and want what he already had. I truly believe that I've maximized the potential with what I started with and where I am today. And I hope you will all get to that same position in your personal as business careers. Want what you already have, then give it all you got, and pursue perfection in whatever you do, because why wouldn't you? Thank you.
We're going to sit down for a second, see if these will work, and take a few questions for Graham. He's kindly agreed to let us grill him for a minute. And we have some people roaming around with microphones, but while they're sort of getting organized, I'm going to start. So one of the things that we've emphasized a lot, and you heard me talk about a little bit earlier, is sort of the role of values and ethics and integrity in business. And I'm sort of curious, given how successful you have been, what sort of role that's played in your businesses and the people that you deal with and the investment choices that you make?
Oh, I think integrity is everything. People do not want to deal with people that you can't trust. And as I said earlier, if you're honest and truthful, people pick that up very quickly. And they stay away from the people that don't have integrity, and they're drawn to people with integrity. So it opens up a lot of doors if you have honesty and you're truthful. Yeah.
So let's open it up to questions from the audience. Does anyone have a question they want to ask of Graham? Oh, come on. It's like ballroom dancing. Somebody starts and then everybody has a question. So please, go ahead. We can hear you.
I want to know, what were some of your motivations in life?
The question is, what are some of your motivations in life?
I actually, truly, honestly, just wanted to always do my best in whatever I did. So if I was a dentist or a lawyer, I think it would have been always just making sure you put that effort in. And I think that truly is from how I grew up. You know, I also, I guess, pictured myself someday of being able to give back. And my parents and grandparents are obviously huge motivations in that respect. So when you look back and how my grandparents came over, which was, I'm sure there's a lot of people in my situation, minorities that came over very early. His mandate when he was 15, came to Vancouver with nothing, was to earn money and give it back to his community in China. My dad obviously picked that up and had that same mentality, but to his community here in Vancouver. And same with me now. So I love our province, I love our city, and one of the motivations for me is trying to build things for our communities. Yeah.
Please, can you go ahead and stand up and... Hi. Hi. That way we'll all be able to hear you. Okay, good.
Well, I think when I look back and see what's happened in my business career, some things you couldn't plan. And I don't know what it was, but I chalk it up to being just a regular person and never letting it get to your head and always being overly appreciative of the opportunities that have been given to me. And I think if you have that that attitude and you always feel that way, things happen that are good. And I can't explain it, but just always have that humbleness and be appreciative of where you are. And like I said, want what you already have. It makes a huge difference. Yeah.
Yes, please, Chris.
Yeah, thank you for your presentation. Just family is incredibly important to you, like as you mentioned when we can see in your presentation. How did you manage to balance, so your life and entrepreneur, like being an entrepreneur at the same time? How do you manage to balance and keep everything consistent going forward?
Well, it wasn't always consistent. There's certainly times in your life when you're building a business that you do have to sacrifice. And earlier in my career, when you're building something on your own, because when I started, I was everything. That's why UBC was so important to me, because I was the only employee. So I was doing the leases, I was doing the financing, the accounting, everything. And when you're so involved at that stage, your wife has to be very understanding. So it really is a team effort. And that's why you have to really have a good partner if you want to go down the path I went. It's not for everyone, but it's a lot of hard work. There's some sacrifices, but back to your question about the motivation, the goal in mind was to have that freedom at one point. And you got to sort of, when you get to a stage in life where you say, okay, that's good enough at this stage, you can still want more later. But just get a plateau, be happy with it, and then everything will work out fine. Yeah.
Yes, please. Can you stand up so we can hear you? Thank you.
So you obviously have a lot of success, but I was wondering also in terms of failure, when you have failed, how do you deal with that afterwards? Or when do you know, like, we failed, we give up at this point?
Oh, good question.
Is that WHL team? No, I don't think so.
Yes. Well, you turn it into a positive and call it a nonprofit. And it's for the community, right? Yeah, that's one area our pro forma doesn't work out quite as well as we thought they would. But even when we got into the rink business, when we built Planet Ice, so we got into some businesses that were never really thought of as areas you can make money in. And one of the early ones was in the hockey rink business. And I love sports, I love hockey. And it was the only sport or business in sports, and that's very different than the WHL team, that you could actually possibly make money off. And of course, in my early career, I was trying to build some wealth up. And it was very bad at the beginning. So again, we had these pro formas that came in, consultants' advice on these, what the potential could be, and it turned out to be terrible. But what really turned things around though, so I had to figure out, okay, what do I do now? And that's where the integrity and everything you've learned here about pro formas and motivation for staff. I set up these goals for them, financial goals. And it's amazing when you set targets and bonus for staff, what they can achieve. And because I was in it with them, and we were all trying to figure this out, these bonus programs just completely turned things around. And there was a lot of other factors that really helped. But anytime there's sort of a negative thing, I honestly do try to put a positive spin on it, because anything I do now, you never want to do something that's going to be big enough failure that's going to kill your company. When you're young, you can take bigger risks. When I get to my stage of my business career, I'm taking risks, but nothing that's that big. So when it becomes a negative thing, I do try to call it a nonprofit.
Oh, that's great. Yes, please. Yeah. Yeah, please, whoever would like to go.
So I recently read that about 80% of jobs that exist today will not exist in 30 years. And so I'm curious to hear your thoughts on, as we move into our next stage of our life, how we can find work that is relevant and meaningful to us and ultimately for happiness.
Yeah, this whole thing with machine learning and robotics is worrisome, but on the other hand, it's going to happen. So you got to figure out, okay, how do you deal with it? And you know, I've been thinking a lot about this and working with a lot of people who are big thinkers in this. And there's no accurate answer other than the fact that you got to accept the fact, and what are people going to do? I mean, you talk about, obviously it won't apply to you guys, but universal basic income. There'll be so much productivity in the world that a lot of jobs won't be necessary, and we'll be able to we can pay people without even them working. But where do you sort of look where those machine learning and robotics could be in positions where you guys are thinking of going? For example, accounting. Or is there accountants in here? I'm sure a lot, yeah. Lawyers. I mean, there's so many different industries that will be affected, but just keep that in mind. It's not going to happen that quickly, I don't think. The big major disruption, but it'll slowly happen. And as you're working in your businesses, just keep that in mind. Of the audit is going to change, or reviewing legal agreements. Rather than a guy sitting there looking through 15 agreements, you're going to have a computer that just looks for certain phrases to pick out certain points of a case, right? So that's all you can do for now, because I don't think it's going to be that quick, but just keep that in mind. Yeah.
During the beginning of your career, when you began with your ventures, how much thought and research did you put into an idea before deciding that it was the right time to initiate it and like execute that idea?
Oh, lots. Yeah, that I didn't touch on that, but when I do my talk on my company, I talk a lot about that. And that's something UBC really taught me well, was on research. And you know, we built and did stuff that, again, rinks, or even the bigger rinks we've done, or we're working on this planned community with 2.5 million square feet. You know, we're turning over every stone to make sure that we don't make a mistake, because when you do things like that and you make a mistake, it costs you so much to repair it. So if you can cover everything at the beginning, you're going to make some mistakes, but as long as you don't make any major mistakes. But you know, I love pro formas. I love numbers. I will sit on a pro forma for days because I love what numbers tell you. And if you put the right sensitivity analysis in there and tie it in with what you study and research and actually see, and you got to go see it as well. Visit it, whatever you're doing, or make sure you get firsthand experience and tie it all together. You've got a much better chance of success, and also determine whether it's going to fail or not. Yeah.
Please.
Hello, thank you so much for your talk. I was wondering what one of your favorite memories from your time at Sauder was.
Yes, when I met my wife. Thanks, Bob. It was actually, yeah, it was, I met her at it was a Chinese varsity club dance. Yeah, so and she was dressed like an elf. It was a Christmas dinner, and she had this tight outfit. And then I did bump into her on campus. And I think, you know, when you meet someone on campus, you've got a lot of common interests. So it's, but there was a lot of great memories here, like poits. I don't know if they do sell poits. Yeah.
Do we still have points?
And we used to do tug of wars on the grass field in the front. And the class I developed this business plan was a lot of fun. Like everybody did business plans. And that's all you did the whole year. And everybody got to present. And it was really interesting hearing about the other people's stories and ideas. But it was such a great experience. And UBC really, I think, is one of the best schools in the world. And the experiences here are outstanding.
Maybe one more question. Please, please.
Actually, I'm a little bit curious, like for you
They can do whatever they want, Michelle. No, you know, I've consciously thought about succession and, you know, knowing what I've gone through, which, as I said earlier, you can't plan sort of some of the things that I've experienced. So I can't expect someone else to go through the same path. But I have thought about, okay, I want to be as diversified and have as many different types of businesses that might interest kids, and whether it's my kids or relatives or someone might want to get involved in what we're doing. And I often actually, when I'd come home at night for dinner, I would talk to my wife about just what's going on. And subconsciously, I was hoping that, yeah, maybe, you know, the music industry is kind of neat, or sports, and we talk about ticket sales of shows. And so it was a kind of a subconscious way of getting them interested. But again, I have no expectations. Like when I graduated, like I said, I had no idea what I was going to do. And in some ways, I think that's better. You know, try things, experiment. You're going to fail sometimes, you're going to succeed, and you'll eventually find your path, because you'll really find something you like to do, and it makes work so much easier. Yeah.
That's wonderful. Wonderful. So we have 3 things that we want to do left here this evening. One is Graham and I and all of the faculty here and all of your friends want to, again, extend our congratulations to all of you. It's been fantastic having you in the school, and we look forward to all the cool things you're going to do. After we're finished here, we're going to go downstairs, and Jonathan Berkowitz is going to lead us in what I'm sure will be a rousing toast to the graduating class of 2017. And the very last thing is we're going to give Graham a small gift as an expression of our gratitude, and I want you guys to all join me in thanking Graham for really a wonderful evening. Thank you, Graham. Thanks, buddy. Thank you.